Alright, part 2 of fixing this old Arctic Cat El Tigre. We got 3 things on the agenda for today. The first thing is fixing the steering mount. Second thing is put some choke cables on here so I don't need to prime it with a turkey baster. And lastly, we're going to throw some new plugs in here so it runs a little better. Then we'll go for a rip. Stay tuned. And I also forgot, we're also going to be adjusting the brakes in this video because I'd like to be able to stop. Alright, so the steering mount is underneath the engine, but I don't want to take out the engine because that's a lot of work. So I'm going to try to lift this the whole sled off the ground and then work from underneath it instead. So let's see if we can get it off the ground up front. Alright, so I want to stick this wagon underneath the front. Oh geez, get a bit of an ice storm. Yeah, it's a bit icy there. Alright, I put it on some logs and the wagon almost fits under it. So I'll just lift up the back and then we'll get the whole wagon underneath. Don't slide. Slid forward on me a little bit on this ice. Alright, well the whole thing slid forward on a sheet of ice and it was a failure. Alright, let's see if we can get this thing done in the ice. Here's how I got the wagon underneath it. I put it underneath the little car jacks and slid the wagon underneath. Now we'll take the last car jack out. There we go. Now I can troubleshoot the steering. Let's go steer it and see what happens. So it seems to be pretty responsive, but this is only in the left direction and I already fixed it going left. The way it doesn't steer is right. I found the issue. Let me go show you what's up. So, in here, so there it is right in there. Do you see that little gray thing right there? That, see how it moves like that when I'm steering it? That is supposed to be stuck and bolted to the back of the snowmobile, or not to the back of the snowmobile, but to the frame there. So this is left. You can see that it sticks like that, but then when I try to go right, it doesn't quite go because it's not bolted in properly. So that's the issue. Alright, I'm going to start by taking off the exhaust so I can access this a little bit easier. So now these come out of there. Look at my hands. Alright, these cans are free to take off now. I'm also going to take off the hood to make it easier to get to. Got a little more access now. Alright, next I'm going to take off this thing here. That just stripped like crazy. New plan. I'm going to try to just take off the little shroud here. Alright, so I'm going to grind this L bracket right across here, and you'll see why in a second. It's going to be part of the repairing of the steering though. So, let's get my angle grinder. There we go. Alright, so here's why I drilled the, cut the L bracket you saw earlier. I'm going to be using it to hold the new steering in place. So put it here like you see here, and that will hold down the bracket that used to hold down the steering in place so that I'll be able to steer a little better. We'll drill some holes here and here in the frame of the snowmobile and tighten it down. And then hopefully that bracket, the steering mount, will stay in place better. We'll be able to go for a rip. Alright, I'll drill the hole through here. Alright, day 2 of part 2. We had a little more freezing rain last night. Let me show you what I did last night. Alright, so this is what I did last night, and I'll use my phone as a flashlight to help you guys see a little bit. But if you can see this bracket here, that's an L bracket, which you saw me cutting inside the shed. And what I did was I cut it to size so that I could wedge it between this little structural element of the sled and the steering mount. And then I bolted it to place. So this just wedges the steering mount in place so it can't move at all. So I can steer and the steering mount stays in place. And this was just a way to keep the steering mount down without having to take the whole engine out. So there it is, and the steering works now. And I don't believe I've actually shown you this yet, but this is the shed that I got for free. Slow down, slow down! There's the shed. And you may have just seen the clip of me getting the shed off of the bed of our truck. That is not how you're supposed to do it, by the way. But this is where I kept the pipes overnight. I've installed a light in here, tools. I made this terrible table and it's a mess right now. You know, there's the floor jack, charger, trimmers, outlet. So can't beat free, right? This is where I stored the pipes overnight. So let's reinstall them. Alright, it's all back together again. I got the flange, the shroud, and the exhaust pipes back in. Here I'm bypassing the throttle safety switch. Neater this time. And this will make it so my kill switch doesn't work either. But it's got to be done. Alright, let's put the hood back on this thing. Almost there. Just a couple more bolts on the hood. All right. Good. All right, so I'm still waiting for my parts to come in for the choke and the spark plugs. So why don't we go for a ride and see how the steering works? Here's my grand plan. Let's see. There we go. Alright, let's start it up. I'm gonna let it warm up a little bit. Alright, I got two brand new plugs. These are both NGK, let's see, what did I go with? I went with BR10ES plugs. So we'll throw these in. And the ones that were in here were BR9 ES, so I'm changing it with a BR10 ES. Get a little bit out of the cylinders. So now I'm going to be adjusting the brakes because on my ride I had no brakes whatsoever. If you want to see the amount of trigger travel, it's all the way to here, and the puck isn't being engaged at all, the brake puck. So let's get that thing adjusted, okay. Alright, so to adjust the brakes, it's down in here. Let's see if I can get my finger in here. There we go. So you want to loosen the one that's on the inside, and that will make it so that you can tighten this one on the outside. So you want to loosen this one first, then tighten this one until you have about 6 millimeters of pedal travel or trigger travel before the brake engages. So I'll go grab 2 wrenches and do that now. Alright, we lost a little bit of daylight, but I'm finished. And I actually looked at the manual and it said between 6 to 12 millimeters of travel, so I did about 10. If you look in here, you'll see the gap, so here we go. This is engaged. This is about 10 millimeters here. You can see I've got good space there. And if I wanted to fully bring this all the way back, I can't actually even do it. See, I'm pulling as hard as I can now. So the brake is engaging well. Move on to the choke cables next. So now I'm putting together the choke cables. And this thing actually costs $40, if you can believe that. For this cable and the ends, it's 1/3 of the price of my entire sled. So I can't believe I had to pay $40 for this. But let me show you how to assemble the choke cables. Alright, so the 3 pieces you need are here. And we're going to start by putting the choke end on the cable. And I've already assembled this one. I'm going to do this one now. So you start by putting on the choke end, or whatever you want to call this. Next you're going to put on the spring. And then this is the plunger. You want to compress the spring down as much as possible. So compress the spring down and then put the plunger on the end like so. And there you go. I'll pull the lever back and forth. You can see they both come in and go out. So we got them all hooked up properly. Right, daylight is fading fast, but we're going to try to assemble or install these choke cables before we run out of daylight. So you just want to slip each end down into the carburetor where they go. Slip them down in there. Alright, well the light's gone, but I've got a flashlight, and if you can see here, the choke cables are all screwed in like that. I've got a little more than 1/8 inch of play up here, so like this. You can see how much play I have, about to here. So that's quite a bit. I'll have to adjust that, but it does engage, disengage the choke correctly. Alright guys, I'm super cold. I'm not wearing gloves right now. I don't want to walk back inside and get them. So that's going to be the end of this video. So watch next week when I ride this next weekend, but right now I'm way too cold and I gotta end the video here. So we did get the choke cables installed, and thanks for watching.